Welcome to the War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com/Zoom.
It is 5 o'clock. I like to be punctual on this, so this is a. Let me get my screen. It is Saturday, April 16th, 2022. With Pentagon discussions, I'm calling this. Sandra and I are not here again. We're not here to try to guide the conversation or anything. We're just looking out that people aren't screaming at each other, calling each other names or anything like that. We just want to hear you guys have a conversation. I could start off by saying that, well, before I get into that, a news article just popped up in one of the 9/11 groups, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center group, posted this news article. My child is obsessed with 9/11. What to do when a kid has dark obsession. So I just see this as propaganda, and I just want to remind us when we have these calls that sometimes we may not seem like we're all on the same side, but we're all on the same side because we're definitely not in agreement with these people and this bullshit that's being pumped out there. So that's all I have to say about that. Lastly, I just want to say we made sure everyone could come back. Sandra did actually, and unfortunately, Chandler is on camping until June, which is nuts. But Barbara couldn't make it, and Richard couldn't make it because he's in a class in Colorado somewhere. So it's Craig McKee is tentatively going to show up. And I think with some of you other characters in here. I say that lovingly. This could be an interesting conversation, but we'll see what happens. And that's all really I have to say.
Well, Adam Eisenberg is supposed to join us too. He said he might be running a little late.
Yes, thank you for that. There he is. His nose must have been itching or something. That's hilarious. All right.
I guess David Cole is with us.
Yep.
Ray, hi Ray.
Thank you, Ray, Dave, Adam. I think the real fun would really start to happen if Craig pops.
Yeah, and Xander said he might try to join, so it would be nice if he did.
Mm-hmm. Right there, we have two of you. There we go.
He is. All right, maybe you can remove your screen share so we can see everybody who's on the call.
Let's do that. Thank you, Xander, for joining.
Hey, Gene, how are you, buddy?
Very good, thank you.
Alexander.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi, have you managed to touch base with Craig? Do you know if he's going to be able to make it in?
I think he is going to try to be here. Yeah.
He said he would. He said he was having some technical issues that he had to sort out.
Okay.
Nelson.
No, I haven't spoken to him in several hours. So, yep.
All right.
Let's see here. We got Ed.
Nelson, thanks for joining too. So we got Sandra and I, which will do very little moderating, just basically making sure everyone doesn't kill each other. Kale, Ed, Adam, Nelson, Sean, Morgan, Dave, Ray, and Xander. Awesome. And again, we don't really want to do any talking. We just want to hear you guys talk to each other. So if you let each other finish each other's thoughts and sentences, try not to run 10 minutes. If it takes some time, it takes some time, and then somebody else can respond. And that's all, I think, really. Sandra, do you have anything else?
Well, I just want to say that having spoken to pretty much everyone here at one point or another and had a discussion, I know that every single one of them is capable of a whole lot of respect. And I think that to assume that anybody's going to be ripping each other's heads off is, although we've seen it happen, but we've seen it happen in other forums. So obviously it's possible, but I think everybody has the truth movement's best interests at heart. And if we can all agree on that, then, let's work at this like a puzzle. That's the comparison I like to use. We have a piece. Where does it fit? Does it fit anywhere else? Is there another piece that can fit in its place? Let's try to do this like a collective puzzle. And, nobody would argue over a puzzle, right? So I think this is totally doable.
If anyone would like to share their screen, feel free. I think I've that option is available for everybody.
Hmm.
So Kale, what do you have to say? Aloha, brother. Fitzgerald's here.
Aloha, guys. Hey, I just to let you know, we volunteer at our Honolulu Railroad Museum, and we have that today. But I'm gonna be on. I'm gonna be driving, but I'm gonna be focused with you guys. I do it all the time, bringing the kids to the gym, whatnot.
All right. All good.
Thank you.
But 9/11 truth's important, so I'm here just to let you know.
All right. Everybody can see who's everybody here. Who would like to ask another person a question? Or do
The old first going dilemma, right?
or do I just make some statement and see who everybody object with it?
I got a question. I don't know a lot of people in the room. Ray Krajenhagen. Ray, I've appreciated some of the comments I've been reading in various videos and stuff. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I can.
Hello.
I'm from Holland, and I studied 9/11 for years, and that's why I'm here. It's just one guy from Holland and nothing more than that.
Okay.
He's very
It's-
interested in
it-
An
explosions.
astute observer, so yeah.
No, I've listened to a lot of theories in the movement, and that got me going into thinking there's something wrong with the official story, and then you get into it, and then it really never ends, and at the end you realize that not everything was investigated by the official people who had to do it, and that's my main focus now is on what the people who wrote the reports, what they did not investigate, because I think you can investigate everything, but if you leave out very small crucial details, even if they're as small as an egg, that it's really getting to the egg. It's that simple. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, you did, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, so I think we have, of the 4 theories that Richard had on the call, we don't have any missile folks here per se.
I don't know.
that's
Maybe
theory
maybe
B.
I'm one.
Oh, we
Gene.
could be, yeah. I think it's mostly theory, not Barbara's, which is theory A. Theory C and D we have here, either the plane did or did not hit the Pentagon.
Yeah, a point of
Yeah.
clarification for me, I was kind of linked in with Craig and Adam Ruff, and I'm good with that, but I may be unique, separate myself from them in that I'm not opposed to something else hitting that E-ring wall. I just say it wasn't a 757. I mean, in my estimation, something may have hit it, a smaller aircraft of some sort or drone or who knows what, but certainly not American Airlines 77. And I don't know if that's, so if you put me in the missile category, if a Sky Warrior is treated like a missile, then, I am open to that, just so you guys know.
Okay, so Xander started off with something, and he has I believe you made this statement, correct me if I'm wrong, just a working theory, and I found it really interesting, and I'll just throw it out there. This generator that was sitting outside may have had something in it, perhaps a missile that was fired at that wall. Just looking at the front of the generator closest to the Pentagon was melted off, or some people like Chandler would say that front end got hit by the starboard engine of the generator.
Oh, Gene, yeah, I don't know if I said that. I think what I've said is that maybe one of those trailers out in the front might have been full of various parts or something, and like a jack in the box might have gone off and dispersed confetti.
Okay, that
like
wasn't
debris
you.
all
I heard
over
it
the
from
wall.
somebody then. Sorry.
Yeah, or like pyrotechnic effects within one of the trailers. I mean,
To disperse
just a-
plane, the alleged plane debris and leaves and twigs and things like that, or
well, I mean, the leaves and twigs, I think, happened from an explosion, one way or another. I mean, the tree got decimated, spread all over
Yeah,
the
but
place.
Yeah, but there was a massive like a dense pile of debris deep inside the sea ring. Based on, and if you look at the trajectory, it makes sense that debris would be there because you're talking about the inertia of the aircraft as it goes through, everything's pushing forward, and that's where a lot of the remains of the bodies were found and things like that. So everything was condensed in that area right there by the sea ring, and so I don't know how any debris would, like for example, the wheels and compressors and from the engines and things like that were actually found there, and there's photographs of them there, would actually come from a trailer outside the Pentagon. And you also
Yeah, I
have
reject the assertion that that sea ring debris is from an aircraft.
Oh, it is.
I don't see the
confirmed
victims
it.
of bodies from passengers. I don't see aircraft.
No, you're talking
part.
what we're talking about small fragments of people who are basically put through a meat grinder on the aircraft. It's like you're going to find, they're talking about pieces of human remains floating in the water going down storm drains. They're trying to block that off. There was, I mean, there's all kinds of stories like that.
Could I
You
ask,
have,
as
you
I
have
understand
people
it
who-
from, as I understand it from Adam, that none of the parts were cataloged or they're not stored anywhere, as I understand.
well, but that's, that we don't know that. I mean, when they were doing the screen sweep, they had their evidence bags. They're putting the evidence in the bags. So there's a form on the bag itself that tells you, all about what's there and all that stuff you fill out. So I don't know, that's not necessarily, I don't know where that information comes from, but the bottom line is that we have plane debris. And I actually confirmed the fact that one compressor part was from an RB211 535 power plant. I looked at an actual parts manual from Rolls-Royce and confirmed that part. And it's not hard to figure out. It's just you gotta look at. I mean, it was hard to get that manual. I had to give it back, but it was hard to get that manual. But when I managed to get it, it did fit the description of that part for that RB211. And there's just tons of debris there.
You just think.
If you look at this is an early picture of the sea ring before the spray paint's up. They haven't put the punch out, thing on there. You've got body parts of maybe one person right here. This person is probably blown up. There's some blood on the ground. This is all masonry. This is building parts.
Not all of it. Not all of it. You can't tell that from the picture.
A slurry of 50 people and whatever else. I mean, just use your eyes, man. This is a
I am, but the thing is, if you're talking about a meat grinder, that photograph doesn't reveal the entire photo. The entire
Santa
scene.
Claus fits down a chimney if you use your imagination. This is not a meat grinder. This is, hundreds of
I'm telling you
feet.
right now, if you're in an airplane, you're hitting an object of 500 some miles an hour, that inertia is going to throw you forward, and you're going through a building, and that's a meat grinder. I'm sorry.
Let me say something if I may.
We'll go to Adam, but then I want to also say, if anybody has anything they want to share on their screen while we're waiting for other people to talk, be prepared. Share your screen, present your screen. Go ahead, Adam. Sorry. And Craig, thank you for joining.
Okay, so this is Adam, me, or Adam Fitzgerald. I want to make sure.
Eisenberg, yes.
Okay, awesome. I want to say this really quickly as somebody that's spent, like I said, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to view some of my testimonies, 240 hours on site. Now you guys are going to start to see some other things that I haven't talked about publicly. I have extreme reason to believe that this area was cordoned off and that special badges were needed outside of the people who were already on site, the access that was available to them. I've got people making several claims, people of authority that talk about the different levels of badges. Thanks to Adam Fitzgerald, I want to say thank you to him publicly. His interview with James Schwartz is brilliant. I just want to say that. But James talks about the rubber bands. Then he talks about later when the Secret Service was brought on site because of a lot of FBI people going north up to New York. That's where I start to talk about kind of the intelligence connections that I have through my research, where these people specifically talk about the badges that were needed. And so a lot of people on my company will also probably go on record one day when they're comfortable doing so, saying that we were kept away from this portion. And if we were on site, if we were part of a almost 280 to 300 person kind of effort to be on site in that area to specifically do what we were to do to help with the bodies, to help with the remains, to help with anything that looked like plane parts. We even guarded the area where the plane parts were being brought out of the building, and even the other area where they were being taken to. Why were we kept away from this area? And I believe I might be incorrect, but isn't this also the area where they said that the engines were removed from?
Well, there's part.
They never recovered the engine.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's when I debate this subject, I lean heavily on the engines. And so again, there are things I haven't talked about publicly, and one of them was the efforts that were made to specifically keep us away from this point.
Adam,
And I
do
can
you
tell
have,
that I also went all over the other parts of the building. So
do you have that thing Dave Cool sent you on the plan view that you
Yeah.
can present? Show.
yeah.
So we all-
Stand by. One sec.
Yep.
If you look at slide 20, by the way.
Tom, thanks for joining.
Yeah, I've got a conflict on Sundays. Otherwise I'd be joining, but
Okay, I can roll whenever you're ready.
Yeah, go ahead, present.
All right. Let me see. Share screen. It says I can't share the screen. It
Oh, let me figure out why.
says it's because you're sharing.
No.
Maybe if I stop sharing.
Okay.
Oh,
again.
you are?
All right.
There you go.
I haven't been seeing it on other people's screens.
Okay. So this part right here that I'm circling, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going to start nailing the government with FOIA requests. So this area specifically, it's etched into my brain. So I know for a fact that we were all throughout here. I can also tell you that the unit was, once the rubble was kind of taken out of this area and things weren't so hot, we were very kind of in and out of this area. We went through these areas, although I couldn't tell you how deeply we went into these parts. We were specifically doing like sensitive items recovery, and they weren't very specific about what exactly it was we were looking for. We were just broken down into teams and searching through there. But like I said, I'm not the only person that can say this. In this area, I can't, give you an exact, spot, but in these areas, especially in AE Drive, we were kept cordoned out of there. And James Jackson says some very interesting things that I can point out in interviews, how he talks about how he inserted people on site, specifically our people, and some people, or we were exposed to he worded it, some of the areas. And so I've always wondered, why weren't we more involved in this area right here? And that could have been due to extensive work that was being done, but there was extensive work everywhere. We were working around dead bodies and what was believed to be debris day in and day out because the work was so extensive. And so there's a lot of, like I said, questions that I could ask officials that will get them to crack on why we weren't closer in this area.
Adam, can I ask you what kind of people were allowed into that area? Was there some kind of common denominator? Was there something specific?
Well, and here's where it gets interesting. So the guy that you guys know I'm investigating, Lee, and I know there's a lot of people that say Lee was a nobody, Lee was a somebody. He has said on several times that he had a team of people. And so I want to know who that team is. That's another area where I'm going to start filing FOIA requests. There's some things that I can show you guys that show a command structure. I'm trying to illuminate who was on site, when they were inserted, et cetera, and so forth. Again, going back to Adam Fitzgerald's interview, if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, I highly recommend doing so. James Schwartz mentions how there were up to 24 different firefighting entities, that some of which self-dispatched, and ultimately in that chaos, that's where I think some crazy things happened. And again, I can get into the weeds about all that, but I'd rather hold off on more of the details on that.
Thank you for that. I just want to pause real quick. One thing I do, some of you may not agree with this. Some of you may not be Christian. Every day at 5:20, I just say a quick prayer for justice for 9/11, and it's just about that time. So if you're not religious, just chill for 10 seconds, 20 seconds. Lord, I just lift this time up to you. I thank you so much that these folks are able to come in be willing to talk to each other. Thank you for this opportunity. Just pray for a blessing as we continue all to move forward in 9/11 truth, but with what we consider our true and right for each of us. We just continue to look forward to better days and justice. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. Adam, can I ask you a couple quick questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, first of all, the Navy Ops Center, there were other breaches in the perimeter wall. There was a utility door, and then it looks like from the exterior images, 2 others. Did you see those from the inside of the building? Could you see those breaches?
No, interestingly, no, I do not remember seeing those breaches. Now that also kind of makes me question how far back we went in the Navy Operations Center. I believe those breaches were man-made. I don't know if you're referring to that door right here between the north and south, right in here, but Dave Cole pointed out that door. There's kind of an anomaly there. I don't know if you're referring to that where the door shows no sign of fire damage from the inside.
I've not seen that image in particular, but it's like a large utility room door. And then it looks like there's 2 smaller doors or breaches further down to the south over,
Yeah, I'll have to show you guys what I'm talking about once I get that stuff together. But yeah,
Okay.
never saw the man-made breaches. I believe they were made by the firefighters. I'm getting into all the details of that from the firefighter perspective.
Terry Mitchell actually testifies that there were some punch outs that were made by rescue workers in order to clean out debris. He testifies that he was one of the combat photographers who were there.
Yeah.
So nobody in here would say that they believe
That
those
was
to be
between
exit
the
holes
E
from
and D
plane
ring,
parts.
by the way, when he was referring to that, it was between E and D ring.
Okay.
Well, we're speaking about C-ring breaches. There's 4 of them total. You can see from early pictures.
Okay.
Well, one other question, Adam, could you see or perceive a linear sort of damage path going? You weren't allowed in DIA, but could you see into DIA? Was there a hole in the wall, separating the Navy Ops and the DIA? Or the elevator banks that are right there, were they intact? Do you recall any of that?
No, I'll tell you that, and multiple people will attest this to my company. I'm confident of that one day. It did not look like an actual damage path. It just didn't. And there's a very detailed, very long, it's almost like a 50 to 100 page document. I'm not sure, I've never seen it out online amongst the research efforts. I'm trying to get with people in my company because that's how it originally came to me. But there was a reporter that was walking around on scene that was interviewing people, and there's several people in my company that all kind of say what we were thinking at the time, and that is the damage doesn't seem to be consistent with what happened here. We were all very much in shock, and so that was kind of the first level that always intrigued me. And of course, that's debatable. We can get into all the different experiments that were done, the F4 experiment, et cetera, and so forth. But to me, the lack of debris, the lack of anything that looked like a personal effect, and the lack of what seemed to be a damage path that was really and truly, defined, that ultimately is what kind of drove me to my beliefs.
Real quick, just I know you. Hey, Adam. You and I spoke, and oh, sorry. You and I spoke, and just to clarify, just my point of view on some of the things you mentioned for the rest of the group. As the condensate, the density of the some of the bodies that were found, you can see from this diagram here what I was talking about. Also, from a security, I was an Air Force security specialist, so I was trained on installation, security, things like that, and guarding, even trained to guard nukes and et cetera, et cetera. From that perspective, when it comes to securing a crime scene, when you have that kind of density of remains and debris and all sorts of other types of evidence, you're going to want to minimize the foot traffic in that area as much as possible, which is why I believe that was why it was heavily restricted. One of the reasons. The other reason, as you can see, the Defense Intelligence Agency's area is right there. So you have a lot of classified information right there that is now not secured. So that would be another reason why that would be heavily restricted. You don't want to just anybody and everybody walking through that area.
Which justifies the NDAs they wanted me to sign, which people in my company were forced to sign. So that
Sure.
absolutely makes total sense. I guess the one thing that I would say then, and even my military documentation will back this up. Why were we then sent out to do special collections missions? So that's what I planned on using to get around this. It's, if we were specifically tagged to do details where, we were around sensitive items, where we signed NDAs, we were helping, what was it so much about this area? And again, I
could tell you that would go to the level of security. In other words, you can have like I had levels of access to certain information, but just because I signed an NDA or have access to it doesn't mean I have access to everything. There's levels of classification that certain things I'm not classified, I'm not cleared to see.
Well, this is where it gets really intriguing, and this is why I'm digging all the way in and I'm pushing all my chips in on Lee Wheelberger. Lee had access to this. I've got him on record saying that he and his teams personally removed jet engine parts from there. I've got him bragging about the different IDs that were needed to get into this level. And so a lot of things that he has gone on record saying are very contradictory to a lot of research that's been done about him. And even some people in the 9/11 Truth Movement have kind of discarded him just because he seems like a nobody. But that's where I'm finding the most intrigue right now through the interview and that Adam Fitzgerald did with James Schwartz. It was found that Lee was removed. Well, just recently, I've got Lee on record bragging about going back on scene. And I can make a very real argument with evidence that people in this guy's family have, high-level CIA connections. I have also, I think James Schwartz is on record, and Adam can confirm this, saying that Lee's own agency was based out in the West Coast. They had no idea what he was doing on site, but he was inserted by FEMA. I could be wrong. So that then ties FEMA into this. And there's a lot of different ways that I approach this argument, but again, talking about a lot of the interactions that you guys in the public just aren't aware of that I have on record, I have very reason to believe that even though the things you're saying are very true about keeping the evidence contained, I would say look at the difference between the way the FBI collected evidence in Shanksville compared to the way they collected evidence at the Pentagon. Joe in his suit and his tie was around walking doing it. At Shanksville, they had people in suits. They were even concerned about the air quality. They were constantly testing.
Shanksville isn't the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind too.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
That's a great point. Why would firefighters be allowed into the DIA? What sort of TSCI would they have? I mean, they wouldn't. So, that argument kind of falls flat. There's something else going on.
Well, no, it doesn't fall flat. Here's why. No, here's why. When you have emergency first responders like firefighters, all right, there's a concept known as like for example, if you're a first responder and you have to respond to an incident where you're dealing with putting out fires or saving lives, that's going to take priority, regardless of who's involved. It doesn't matter if you're a firefighter. Okay.
ASCE said there were no survivors on day one. I mean, there were.
But here's what I'm getting at, though. We're talking about. I don't know if you're talking about the initial response or what.
Well,
but
Adam's saying that throughout all of the cleanup, it was very restricted access, and then those that did have access do not fit the description of those who would carry high level security.
Well, then I would suggest maybe. I mean, look, I'm not. I mean, if you want to go and talk to the FBI and or all the people who were involved on the site and ask them those questions, that's fine. But I don't think we have access to that information at this point in time.
No, but we should because, it would be
conclusion.
easy to use firefighters as cutouts, when they're really intelligence operatives or who knows who, and they put them in a firefighting uniform and have them do whatever they want, probably like.
But okay, but that's the realm of possibility, but is the realm of probability.
Can I say something? Can I say something?
Sure.
This is real deal, you guys. I've talked with you guys individually, and you guys could use this information. This is being recorded right now.
Yep.
Upstairs where I live right now lives a woman that I've been with for almost 3 years and her 11-year-old son. They don't know it yet, but I'm about to leave them and move to a safe place. Now, I can assure you, the things I say are said for a reason. I'm not here for fame. I'm not here for fortune. It's because my proximity to the event gives me access that researchers just can't go to. And I can assure you that in the last 16 months since I've been dug into this man's network, that I've uncovered information that if somebody at the FBI or the DOJ was paying attention, they could go to this man on counts of treason. So I know you guys have been to issue. There's new information. I'm digging into it. And this guy is saying things that are crazy, and he is going to extreme lengths to do everything he can to discredit me. So I'm not trying to be an asshole or do gotcha stuff, but I don't want you guys arguing over things when I can just tell you that the things that I'm into right now are deep, and I do not feel safe. And so there's new information, and that's all I'm going to say. I'm about to take a lot of time to get into it, and when I finally get to the bottom of it, regardless of where you guys sit, I just ask for your support, because it's going to shed light, and I just want to say that.
Thank you.
Okay, but until
Ray's
we
been
know
holding
that
off for a long
information, it's very.
time. Ray's
Yeah,
been
but
holding
it's
for like
hard-
10 minutes. You have
Oh,
something else to
sorry,
add
sorry,
real
go
quick?
for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ray, what's up?
Go ahead, Ray.
I'm looking at the graph and I'm listening to you, but I'm looking at the graph and they want to present something in this graph. And Eisenberg, he mentioned the room with people on the sitting around the table, and they are complete bodies. Really, they were burned heavily.
Adam, you want to show where
But-
that
but-
area is?
Yeah, it's there.
right
yeah,
there.
yeah. That's where the gruesome photos also were made that we were known of. But there are a lot of there are not a lot of pictures of body parts, and then I mean body parts in this in the sense of a finger or even you know a small piece of bone, whatever. But if and Ed just used the term meat grinder, and I think that it's gruesome to think about the destruction of humans here in this area. But there's something not adding up in what is shown is we see a lot of numbers, and the numbers refer to humans, and some numbers are found on different locations in the building and outside in the EA drive. But we do not know anything about the size of the remains that were found, the weight, the dimensions, or even what type of body parts were found inside the building. There's none of this information in this graph to be found. It's only a number is identified as that it comes from the same person, and the number can be found on different locations in this graph. But the thing is, and that's where I'm getting to, is if you zoom out again, because I find it very fascinating. If we zoom out and we see the total, there's the EI drive. There's the people remains are found in the EI drive, but there's nothing in front of it. There's nothing in front of where the lawn is, where the trees are, where the fire station is. There's not one human body part found outside. And that means that this was only done to pinpoint human body parts found inside of the building and in the EA drive. That is what this chart shows us. But the location of human body parts on the lawn or near the firehouse or the helipad or on the highway or whatever, those body parts were never located. So there are two things. The location of body parts in front of the Pentagon is missing totally. And then the second thing is, and I say this because plane parts were in front of the Pentagon. So if it was a passenger plane, and I highly think it was a passenger plane, was used in this attack, plane parts are in front of the Pentagon, why is there no location known to us of body parts in front of the Pentagon? Because if there are plane parts in front of the Pentagon, and it was a passenger plane, then it's highly likely that there also must be human body parts outside of the Pentagon in front of it.
Didn't they spray all that foam all over the place?
No, you can foam it up, but eventually the foam will evaporate and disappear. And the FBI did search the on the day itself the lawn and in front of the Pentagon, the helipad, and that part of the area. And the second day, they moved their search to more outside ring, and they searched the highway. They searched the cemetery against the cemetery, where the bridge is that is so famous in this whole attack. The overpass there. But it's there's a lot of things that were searched by the FBI, not documented in a report.
But we don't know that. We don't know that. Just because we don't know.
What do we not know?
We don't know if it wasn't documented. Has anybody asked for those specific documents that we're questioning whether they're documented?
Have you read them?
That's what I'm asking. If nobody's seen it, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
If something is collected by the FBI in a crime investigation, whatever it is that not documented? Has that
It can't. It doesn't mean we've all seen it.
Have to document
it? Doesn't mean we're all privy to it. It doesn't mean there's not sitting a
Was it
file
not a
somewhere
crime
in a
scene?
filing
Was
cabinet.
it not a crime scene?
Yeah, but it doesn't. Again, it doesn't mean it
No,
wasn't documented.
no, what I'm saying is that we do not have a total picture of what happened. And then we go inside the Pentagon and we see numbers. But what are these numbers? Is this one finger? Is this a whole finger? Is this a hand?
It's various things. They found human
No,
remains.
you can say it's various things. I say I highly think these were body parts. I'm not.
We need to see the underlying
not
data.
saying that there were not body parts, but
Right.
we do not know a lot about the dimensions and the size of the body parts. And then
Well, are you suggesting we get our hands on all the pathology reports and all
in order to
So are you
understand
guys saying we
everything?
need a FOIA
Yes.
request? Are you guys
Well,
saying we
yeah,
need
and
a
the
FOIA
collection
request?
I'm satisfied. I don't need FOIA requests to be
Okay, well,
satisfied.
I know
Somebody's
you're
saying-
satisfied, Ed.
I'm
I'm not satisfied.
What's
I
that?
think a lot is missing in
Far from satisfied.
the
This is a good point.
investigation.
Ray, I have a question. What is your inference? Like the fact that there are no body parts outside of the building, what is it that you're trying to imply by that? What is it? What is your therefore in that sentence?
It's the fragmentation of humans that was put into this chart. The fragmentation of humans is
Would
what
indicate
is put.
explosives.
Hmm?
Would indicate explosives.
Well, I think he's saying there's
No,
passenger aircraft, or
my
else you would have
my
passengers
eventual
also dispersed.
outcome is I think that explosives were used, and I think that Xander has a point when he says explosives were used. I think that it's most highly likely that explosives were used in this attack on the Pentagon. Yes, yeah. And if explosives were used, and that means that human body parts were also blown outside because of overpressure.
But there
Because
isn't. But there isn't,
Wait, how do you know?
as you stated. Well, you stated it.
No, I'm
I don't
saying
see any
it's not-
there.
no. What I'm stating is not on the chart. I'm not saying it's not there.
I think we're all in agreement. We're missing this information and whether.
We're
some of
missing
us-
information what was found outside. How many plane parts were collected on the lawn? How many human body parts were collected on the lawn? We do not know it.
All right, I'll file a request. I'll ask Dave to help me out.
Yeah, we
Adam,
don't.
you're up.
Thanks, man.
Adam Fitzgerald? Thank you, Ray.
Hi. Two things. One, I'm going to have to apologize on behalf of the Pentagon's families and victims, because the common public who actually questions whether those people actually died at the site are not satisfied because they didn't see a piece of a thumb or a foot that, would satisfy certain
Okay. All
conspiracy
right.
theories.
Point
And
made.
two,
Next.
now
Come
my
on,
next,
man.
now my next question, no, that's relevant.
All right.
I mean, come on, so what, because you didn't see a picture of a thumb or a
We
backbone?
we all agree we were coming from different
Nobody
viewpoints.
said that.
Yeah, but
So-
that's what Ray wants. He wants to see extra photos because they may.
No, he wants to know the underlying data. He's not even
Yeah.
asking for
Why-
pictures.
why
He
do-
wants
why
to
does he
know
need- why?
who was
What-
collected
why?
where.
What, you have it right here.
What?
It's right here.
What?
What do you have? These are numbers. They don't correlate to anything.
Yes, they
The
do.
numbers,
They do.
the
In fact, it
numbers
was
go up
used-
to over
wrong,
1,000, right?
wrong,
So
wrong.
which numbers correlate to which individual?
Wrong.
They tell you, you scroll
Tells
over, it'll
right
tell you.
there. It
Come on,
tells
Adam.
you on it.
Go to the next
Tells you
point.
on it. And my next point is this. Adam Eisberg, let's cut to the chase. Let's say Lee Wheelbarger is a CIA agent. And let's just say he has family involved with the CIA or whatever. What is it going to deviate from the fact that American Airlines 77 crashed in the Pentagon? What's going to change?
What do you mean, what's going to change? What specifically you're asking me?
Oh, no, well, if you find out that Lee Wheelbarger is really CIA or he's part of some nefarious agency, how is the fact that American Airlines 77 crashed in the Pentagon going to change?
Well, I think first and foremost, you don't understand what I have him on record saying. And so I take that information and I then leverage it to show that there were two different official command structures on site. Again, you don't know what you don't know. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like trying to explain to George Washington what a computer is.
No, that's not true. What we're talking about is official narrative, right? You have a problem with the official narrative. And I don't know how tying Lee Wheelbarger to that's going to change anything.
Because you don't
How-
understand what information I'm sitting on, Adam.
Okay, I don't think you're sitting on anything.
Okay,
All
well,
right.
that's an opinion.
The fact is,
Adam, I
no,
think
it's
you're
not.
also conflating. One has nothing to do with the other. Whether
No,
Lee
no,
was
the
CIA
que-
and
the
CIA
que-
ran this
hold
operation
on,
has
hold on,
nothing to
Adam.
do with
Did it?
whether American
Did
Airlines
it?
77 hit or not.
It
They're
did.
unrelated.
The CIA is involved. How?
You know, those that participated in this and continue to try to obfuscate they are abetting mass murder and treason to this day. You know, so it's all still very relevant.
Who are these people?
Well,
We
that's
don't-
what
we're not trying to
working
get
on,
into
right?
speculation here.
No, it's exactly.
No, we're working this out. Let's ask
Okay, go
questions.
ahead.
This is
We're here for it.
exactly the point. Look, the point is this. You're arguing that something other than American Airlines 77 crashed in the Pentagon and that the conspiracies surrounding it are anti-ethical to that official narrative. You have a problem with that official narrative. What
Adam, I
is
don't
the-
know if you paid attention to the Pentagon conference, but I proved that 77 didn't impact the building.
No,
That's a
you
proof.
didn't.
But no, you
No, you
provide,
didn't.
you provided,
Walk away
a-
No, you
you
didn't.
provide,
No, you didn't.
you provided a hypothesis, but you didn't prove anything. You just
Well,
provided a
it's a damn
hypothesis.
good hypothesis, and I sure haven't seen a rebuttal to it yet.
I think more than 5
Well, I think
minutes.
the evidence itself is fairly highly rebuttable.
5 minutes. 5 minutes. Who am I going to believe? You or the people that were actually there?
Come on, Adam. That's a
It's
a good
fallacy.
question.
geometry.
Steve, what's wrong with that
Geometry.
question?
It's a
Why
good
It's not
is it a
question.
bad
about
question?
believing it. It is what it is.
Well,
I'm
I got
not-
a question.
So why am I going to believe you? Then I'm going to believe 86 people who actually said they saw American Airlines plane hit the Pentagon. Who am I believing? You or them?
Well,
I really don't care what you believe. You're wrong.
No, you're
So
wrong.
you're saying that
That's why
86
you're
people
here.
are wrong.
Let's
You're
step it up.
wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong.
Okay. As far as the evidence, I mean, as far as eyewitnesses goes, there are there are many conflicting
No, there isn't.
eyewitness
No,
reports.
there isn't. No, there isn't.
Thank you, Eric, for joining.
No, there isn't. You are all trying to jump through hoops to make sure that the eyewitnesses are discredited, that the evidence doesn't fit. But guess what? I have the evidence. I have the eyewitnesses. And I don't have to.
But should we not take all the eyewitnesses into account and see if there's a way to explain the discrepancies in what they saw?
What discrepancies? They all saw 86 people.
86 people
specifically-
saw it hit the building, or 86 people saw the plane?
86 saw impact.
Let me finish. 86 people on record to suggest that American Airlines plane crashed into the Pentagon. Are they all they're all lying, they're all coerced, or they're all misinformed?
Okay, that's a statement. Let somebody reply to that statement.
Go ahead.
Could I just let people know that I'm on here just on
Yep.
audio? It's Craig McGee. I just
Yeah.
have a little internet problem that won't let me hook the camera up. So I just want, in case you didn't know I was there,
Yeah, it's all good. We
and
can
I
see
wouldn't
you.
mind jumping in.
Yeah,
Please do.
well,
You
then
can
go
what?
ahead.
You can see me?
No, we can see just some kind of blurry back. No, but we can see your name. I meant, oh, there's just like a blurry background picture.
Oh, well, okay, that might be the thing.
Oh, he
maybe
has it on
camera
the
is
front
working, 'cause
camera.
I have-
You need to switch it to your other, it's probably looking at your camera away. There you
Oh,
are.
there you go.
There I am. Okay. I'm not seeing any of you, but okay, you're seeing me. Now I feel
Oh, that's weird.
at a bit of a disadvantage, but okay, so I'm not really sure what point I would jump in on. I just wanted to let you know I was here, but
So Adam
Um,
had just said that 86 people saw, say it again, Adam. What did you say?
86 people, 86 eyewitnesses that saw American Airlines crash into the Pentagon directly.
Adam,
so
where are the
where can we
cameras?
verify? Can we verify all these
Yes, you
eyewitnesses?
can.
They've
I
been
have-
How
verified.
can we do that?
I have an entire playlist on my YouTube channel, 50 of them.
Would you consider the camera to be a witness?
Would I could say, why do I need
Are
a, I
the
don't need a
secur- Are
camera.
the security cameras?
I don't need a
witnesses?
camera.
Okay.
Well, would you just ignore them? I mean, what are the security cameras? Those are witnesses also, are they not?
Sure. No, they're recorded devices. But guess what? Let me ask you something, Xander. That's a good question. Let's just say a video came out through Gene's FOIA request that a plane certainly hit the Pentagon. You changing your mind?
If it's an authentic video and it shows it.
There's the
Yeah.
question. There
That's
it
a
is right
BS
there.
question.
As long as it's authentic, because
Adam,
you could always say
come on,
early
brother.
on. No. This is
These
true.
gotchas.
it's a
You just did a
person-
Hey,
gotcha there.
No,
and
it's
that's
not.
Adam,
I'm not the
it's
one
Adam.
doing the gotchas. I'm not doing the one that
Your
gotchas.
reaction. See right there. We
Because
can't
it's
do
true.
that.
What did he just say? He just said if it's authentic. But
Correct.
anything
Meaning
from
based
the
on his
government,
standards.
doctored,
anything
if
from
it's
the
not
government is not
manipulated,
authentic.
if it's a real video, I think we
But
would
who-
all be happy
Of
with that. That's all we've
but who-
all been asking for
but
for
who
now
gets to
20
make that-
years.
But who gets to make that
decision?
determination?
Right.
Who gets to make that determination? That's not
Right.
doctored.
Of course.
Anybody can say, "Oh, it's doctored." That's what people have been doing.
We can look at it critically. We can look just like we did with the security camera footage, and we can see that there are problems in it. I mean, look, the best CGI is not going to be able to replicate a fake aircraft. They're not going to pull it off.
Yeah, people are saying that about the new video of
Yeah,
Flight
the new-
175.
Right.
Give me a break.
Yeah. Already.
All right.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, that whole thing seems staged. That 175 deal.
See, there you go. See that.
But the
Yeah, I mean, listen to
175
the
plane
audio.
isn't
The
fake.
There you go. Prove my
speaking as
point.
it's going
Prove my
on. I mean, the
point.
whole
Prove
thing.
my
You guys,
point. Prove
whoever's
it.
putting these projects together, they need better consultants. I
Thank
mean,
you.
really.
Wait. You think that video, the Kevin video from 175 is fake, Alexander?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah.
There you go.
Are you
I
kidding me?
rest my
All
right, we're
case.
going back to
I
the
rest-
See,
Pentagon.
you asked for security
I
video
rest
for
my
what?
case.
You're
Yeah, for what?
in confirmation but the
I
bias.
rest my
Help
case.
me.
There's 40 angles to that impact.
Why is
Craig, let Craig talk for a minute here.
Oh,
Okay, go ahead. You got the floor,
I mean,
Craig.
I'm already getting a headache listening to
I know, I
this.
hear you, brother.
well,
Right.
whatever.
I get the feeling that the Fitzgerald Brotherton, contingent, and I don't know who else is there. Is this what happens every week? They just sort of pounce on anybody that
No.
wants to.
No, this doesn't, this is the first of its kind. So you're getting 1 minute. Let's not talk about anybody else.
Yeah,
Let's address the
Well,
topic.
excuse me.
I know,
I'm
brother.
talking about somebody
Go
else
ahead.
for good reason, I think. Well, I don't. Okay. Okay. I'm not really sure. I mean, if talking about the video and saying if it's released, well, it hasn't been released, and what we have, there's very good reason to think that it's doctored, and we're not just, unlike what was just said, we're not just saying that. We're not just out of the blue.
You're breaking up.
I think Xander has shown why it's doctored. And I'd like to like to hear an actual rebuttal of that, which I haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
Oh, am I?
Thanks.
Well,
Greg,
maybe I should
I
turn
want to say one
the
thing.
camera
I'm
back
not
off
just,
and just do audio.
denying
It's-
the
it's-
175 thing out of
I think
incredulity.
that might be
The
a
reason
problem.
that that video is
Hold
not
on.
right is because it's
Is that
inconsistent
making a
with all of
difference?
the prior video
Yes.
of that aircraft.
Can
So
I
because
ask,
it's
for the
Right.
sake of
Say that,
discussion?
say it, sorry,
Hang
say
on.
that
Right.
again, Leander.
It's inconsistent with all the other angles we have, just
Unbelievable, man.
even closer. Unbelievable. You don't deserve any evidence to form the Pentagon. You don't. You are lost in like La La Land,
All right.
proving a
All right,
federal
all right.
government
We're gonna have to-
conspiracy that doesn't exist. All because of a 16-foot hole that you guys agree don't, it's not even
Guys.
there.
Guys, I'm gonna have to ask if everyone's cool with this so that everyone can get a statement out. I may have to mute everybody, and if you need to say something,
good.
raise your hand, because otherwise it's gonna be talking over each other. We're never gonna hear each
That's a
other.
good idea. Good idea.
So I don't know how to do that yet, but I'm gonna find out how to mute everybody. Ed, you're up with your hand up. Everyone know
go-
how to do
yeah.
the hand up thing? You
Yeah,
go on
Dean, go to your-
reactions and then raise your hand.
Dean, go to the mute area. It tells you.
The mute.
Okay. Look, there's this thing called, when you're trying to find out what,
Oh, hang on, Ed. I muted you. There you go. Go ahead, Ed. Or Ed.
all right, there we go. I just unmuted myself.
Cool. If anybody
Yeah.
wants to talk, raise your hand, please.
All right. There is, for some reason, I don't know why, but there a lot of us, like myself and Nelson, we at one point believed the some of the other theories, such as missile and things like that, at one point in our 9/11 truth activism, I guess you could say. And then when we come across new evidence that suggests otherwise or contradicted our previously held beliefs, at least myself and I know others like Nelson have been able to change our own views and adapt to the new evidence. So we can't be considered one of those who are suffering from any sort of confirmation bias because we have presented the ability to change our own minds. Now, with that said, there's something to be said about such people like myself and others who have held those beliefs we used to have and have been able to change our minds based on this new evidence. And I think it's important to be able to consider that and ask yourself, well, what is it that really changed our minds? For me, it was the Pentagon question. I don't need a video to prove anything with respect to the Pentagon. Does it help? Sure. An analysis of a very blurry video is even more difficult to use. And then because you show me your hypothesis, Xander, I can show you another hypothesis that'll give you something different. I don't care to do that because I don't want to waste the time, because I don't think it's going to change anything with respect to the rest of the evidence that exists to support Flight 77 hitting the Pentagon. We know Flight 77 exists. We know that existed. I know that because a very dear friend of mine who actually went and visited this past Friday was supposed to be on that plane. And he changed flights at the last minute because the photo shoot he was doing in Washington, D.C., the talent got sick and he switched flights and took an earlier flight out. So he wasn't on Flight 77, but he was supposed to be. So he almost got killed that day. And so I know Flight 77 existed. We have the video surveillance footage of Maria Sopper going through security surveillance, along with the hijackers.
Try to keep it down to like a few topics, because if you keep skipping and somebody wants to
Well,
address.
no, I'm going through a series of things here that's irrelevant. So we know that the evidence exists that the hijackers were present at the same day, at the same time, with one of the victims of Flight 77. So we know that. We know there was plane debris inside the Pentagon. We know there was plane debris outside the Pentagon. We know that the parts belong to an RB-211 535 power plant. We know that the markings on the debris had American Airlines markings on it. We know that we have witnesses who saw the plane impact the building, including Legacy. So we know we have all this other evidence. You don't need an analysis of a blurry video to try and convince me otherwise. You have to use the preponderance of the evidence with respect to what happened at the event in order to draw a reasonable and logical conclusion that falls in the realm of probability instead of possibility, which is more fantastical and never ending, it seems like. So there you go.
Thank you, Ed. Ray, you're up. You can unmute. You're still muted. I don't know.
Now I'm not unmuted.
There you go.
Okay. I put some screenshots of mine out of my collection in the chat, and it's about plane debris. It's looking at where it's laying in front of the Pentagon. I think that's the most important part that we're missing in the whole truth movement. Is if there is plane debris, and you look at the size of the plane debris, it's fragmented, and it's fragmented, highly fragmented. There are not a lot of big parts. It's small parts, and they are in front of the Pentagon. We can all see it. It's in front of the Pentagon, and then there are trees, and there's even building debris from inside the Pentagon between these plane parts. It's also very interesting that you can see pieces of the hanging ceiling in there. So there's clearly interior debris, which is outside in front of the Pentagon. Yeah, if you want a close-up of the interior parts, I can give it to you. But going back to if this was a passenger plane, and I highly think it was, I'll make that clear for all these people who think I'm someone who thinks there was no plane. There was a plane, but my question is, how did it get so fragmented at that spot? And why do we know so little about the passenger remains that were found in this debris on the helipad? Why do we know nothing about the size and fragments found? Because it was the FBI, which I claimed earlier, that went to on the day itself. Later in the afternoon, they cleaned the lawn, and they cleaned the lawn for a purpose. So they were collecting plane and other debris in paper bags, and the paper bags were especially used for human collection, for human remains, because that's the way, the standard way the FBI works. If you have a piece of human remains, you do not put it in a plastic bag, you put it in a paper bag. And that is for you store it that way that it does not rot. So you kind of dry it out in the paper bag. And so the next day you see a lot of people walking there with it was a top shot from Fox News, I think. They made a video from the camera, from the helicopter. And then you can see the collection of our post, a screenshot of that, of the people collecting, and there were FBI officers in between, but also other people in between, holding paper bags and walking a line over the lawn. And they went both ways. They went several times both ways. And the collection is done in that way to eliminate the possibility that you do not see it, because you're walking one way and then you walk another way, and that is to gather as much as possible remains that you can find. And the last photo I post, it's down there. You see the helicopter shot from Fox it was called.
Hang on, give me 1 second.
And then you see the line they were forming to collect debris on the lawn. And this was done This is not debatable, and it's in the sense that we can see it with our own eyes. These people are clearing the lawn, and if you look good, they're to where the trailer was, and
Well, that's kind of sketchy. You got regular people picking up what could be body parts.
Yeah,
Something wrong.
they were doing collection and picking up debris that is visible, and they put them in paper bags. But they were
Okay.
clearing the lawn to make a way for heavy equipment, which would be used the next day to clear the part of the building which had collapsed. So they needed cranes there. So they were collecting these debris from that part of the lawn to use it as a staging pad for the machinery which was going to come in the next day. And but this collection is never mentioned in a report, in the sense what they collected, how much they collected, where they collected it, and what they collected.
Okay.
It was there's no information, and that's because
I love you,
there's
but
no,
you already stated this once. Was there
yeah,
something
okay,
more?
okay.
I get it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else next? Craig, you didn't get a chance to really speak yet. Do you want to say anything? Okay.
Maybe unmute him to see, because if he's answered, we can't see right now.
Yeah, I tried.
Oh,
All I get is the option of ask to unmute.
oh,
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay. I was talking away there. No, I was just saying that I find it very strange, the idea that they would have people walking around picking up debris in their hands, so that they could make way for machinery the next day. It seems to me the investigation should take precedence over, clearing out that part of the Pentagon. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, you did see people kind of walking around with pieces of supposed debris in their hands. We don't quite know where they were going or where they started, but I mean, the fact is we don't have, there isn't a single large piece of alleged wreckage or debris outside the building. And when I say large piece, we're talking about, a 100 ton or 90 ton or whatever, 757. So, Wayne Costy refers to that piece with the little bit of lettering on it that's sort of sitting in the middle of the lawn. He refers to that as a large piece, and I don't think that is a large piece. So I think the idea that a plane would hit this building and make a hole that's not large enough to accommodate it, and then and yet the entire plane, except for a few pieces that seem to be easily picked up by individuals, the entire plane would end up inside the building, going into a hole that it just isn't large enough. I mean, what happened to the tail? I'd like to know. What happened to the engines? What was it inside the building that stopped the momentum of these 7,000-pound engines traveling at 530 miles per hour?
The building.
It wasn't, but the building can't. I mean, that's going to blow right through a wall like that. I mean, that's a lot of kinetic energy we're talking about. So I don't think the if the plane, which the Pentagon Building Performance Report, says that the plane had lost structural integrity by the time it got halfway to the C ring. How does that get all the way through and make a nice round hole, or relatively round hole, and yet there's no holes where the engines would have impacted? How come the engines didn't make it to the C ring, but the bits and pieces of plane that were all ripped apart managed to do so?
All right. I'm gonna open up to Ed then. Go ahead, Ed. Thank you,
he's
Craig.
still muted.
Parts of the engine did make it to the C ring. In fact, the compressors. We got the thing I remember. An engine is a huge thing. Yeah, granted that. but a lot of it is made up of the fins on the front of the engine. Those are spinning at about 42,000 RPM, if I remember right, around there. And when it hit the building like like a Pentagon, it going full speed, those fins get shredded and ripped off, and including all the fins on the compressors, because it just keeps pushing air through the engine. And so as those get ripped off, well, now the engine becomes much smaller. It's not the big, because the fins is what makes it huge in order to have a shroud in order to contain those fins. But then once those get sheared off, there's really nothing left. The engine becomes very small at that point. It's not that big. That's why you saw the compressor pieces inside the, laying there in the debris. And if you notice, you'll see the fins were actually ripped off of them, which means it had to be rotating at the time of impact in order for those fins to be sheared off. So it wasn't like it was in order to plant that debris, number one, you have to be, I've came in contact with physically with compressor parts like that on a jet engine, and they're freaking heavy and they're not light at all. It's not like a couple guys just pick it up and carry it. The landing gear strut that was located inside the Pentagon, you're not going to have a bunch of guys walk in there and carry that thing, and to have it planted inside the building, it's just absolutely ridiculous. No evidence for that. And then prior to the impact. So again, it's like you got the wheel hubs there that match the 757. You got the there's the first picture of that. Go back, that landing gear strut. That's the first picture, the very first picture there. That thing's heavy. That thing is massive, and you're not going to walk in there and just carry it in there and just plant it. Plus it's all burnt up, and it was obviously there during the fire. So this idea that's it's just absolutely absurd that people are planting debris. All those parts match. That wheel hub assembly is massive. So it's just I don't get why people think that you're gonna think about it. If you're gonna plant debris, you're doing it in front of thousands of eyewitnesses, and that just got hit, that just got attacked, or the Pentagon just got attacked, which was an act of war. So now you got actual witnesses who are actually engaging in the act of treason and punishment by death in front of thousands of witnesses. And you don't think they're afraid of getting caught for doing that kind of stuff? Come on. You should common sense, guys.
Well,
Ed, I don't think
you.
anybody is saying that people just walked in and planted some plane parts.
Well, there are some people saying that, absolutely. And,
Okay, I don't
there's
think
some people who are
anybody
saying
on this.
there's people who
Oh,
are saying
there's
it was
people
planted ahead
saying
of
that.
time.
There's people totally saying that that's a classic belief.
Okay, so
It is, and it's people saying that it was planted inside the building ahead of time. Again, you're risking getting caught. And who's doing that? Who in the heck in the country is doing that, other than just a handful of possible assholes who are in high positions of power, who are psychopaths? But your average bureaucrat out there who's working for the government isn't like that. And it's like, you got to get all these people involved. It's just ridiculous.
okay, I mean, if the Twin Towers could be rigged for demolition over months and months on end, then it's entirely possible to plant some plane parts inside of walls or locked rooms while that part of the building is under renovation.
And the evidence you have suggesting that the buildings were brought down by demolitions in the World Trade Center is connected directly to Middle Eastern individuals such as Rocky Hamad, who had access to the World Trade Center. So again, we're going back to the Middle Eastern suspects.
All right. Thank you,
With the
Ed.
Tennessee Five.
Adam,
Because
you're
most
up.
people don't know about that.
Thank you, Ed. Adam, you're up. Fitzgerald.
Unmute him if you can.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, wait, you're
Oh.
still muted. Can you unmute yourself, I guess? I don't know how to unmute
No.
you.
There you go.
Hey, listen, apologies for getting out of line the other, just before. So
Thank you.
as for why we aren't seeing large plane debris, this is a common misconception relating to 9/11, and I can easily explain it. Most people generally see plane crashes and they see large pieces of the fuselage, they see the hull, they see the engines, they see the tail, they see the nose. You even see people walking out of the plane or even whole bodies, right? But you're making the classic mistake of plane crashes that were trying to intentionally land at the slowest speeds possible while dumping the fuel. It's very rare, and only a few times in history have we ever seen intentional plane crashes where the intention was to crash the plane into a target at the highest speeds possible while fully loaded. And Nelson did a fine work. He was the first person to point this out to Jason Burmis regarding PSA 1771. Not only did that plane crash and nothing was found, not even a body or part of a bone, nothing was found, but the plane broke the sound barrier. Because I always hear the people, oh, certain Boeing planes can't go past their max point. Yes, they can. That plane went 700 miles an hour, broke the speed of sound. Second thing I pointed out to Jason Burmis was Germanwings 9525 that crashed into the Alps. That plane crashed intentionally by the pilot who locked out, the first officer locked the pilot out and crashed into plane at the side of the Alps. You know what they found? No bodies, no engines, no pieces of, hardly pieces of fuselage. That was it. And they found parts of the black box that looked reminiscent to Flight 77. This is the reason why you are not going to see an engine survive after being hitting a building at 538 miles an hour, holding 11,000 pounds of fuels, which equals to 78,000 pounds of jet fuel at a high impact. You're not going to find much of anything. It is an absolute miracle that they found most of the people, save I think 2 bodies. One was a child, but they did manage to find a partial body at the location of the hole, and that's coming from the Pentagon Incident Commander James Schwartz. They found parts of the people. This is what people don't understand, and I can understand why, because you're looking at it from 2 different perspectives. One, intentional plane crash sites, which you hardly ever see, and unintentional plane crash sites, which you are generally seeing. Now, I think that clears it up, basically. Look, they found parts of the turbofan in A&E Drive. They found the landing gear by the hole, which, by the way, wasn't just circular. By the way, it was just limestone and brick and just barely fell off. And it was like, I think like screen on it and whatnot. It wasn't a very thick wall. And that's where the plane, the explosion landed. It wasn't the plane. It was the inertia, the explosion, the kinetic energy that you saw at the World Trade Center, that you saw at the Pentagon. That's what everybody saw. And the thing that kills me is that people go this route saying we should find large pieces of the plane or human remains. You ever see what a human body looks like when it lands at a high speed? Take a look at the World Trade Center. Look at the jumpers. You know what's left of them? Nothing. They splash like watermelon. And you're expecting me to believe you're going to find a body in the midst of an explosion of an airplane at that speed into a building going 538 miles an hour with 78,000 pounds of fuel. Simple physics.
All right.
Nothing's going to survive.
100 times better. Thank you so much. I appreciated that one. Anybody want to respond? Craig, you want to respond? Or wait, I'm sorry, Xander did ask. Then I'll go to Craig. Xander first, then Craig. Go ahead, Xander.
Yeah, hey, so the thing is about the security camera footage is, grainy or not, the images can be analyzed and the relative length of the aircraft can be determined regardless of the resolution. And that is evidence that we have in front of us that is alleged by DOD to be authentic. And so whatever comes out later in the future, or what we have to acknowledge it. We can't dismiss it. And if a theory is inconsistent with what is revealed in that footage, then the theory is wrong. And that aircraft, or whatever it is in that footage, is not 155 feet. So that alone means that it can't be a Boeing 757, and that of course means it can't be American Airlines 77. There may be other footage of American Airlines 77 coming into the building. I'm not saying there isn't, we haven't seen it, but that security cam footage is not it. And if I can screen share real fast,
Please
this,
I do want to say, Xander, that Chandler did respond. I don't know where he did respond. He was fascinated with your work on that triangulation or whatever you called that there. He found a couple things he considered not, I don't think he said errors, but things he wanted to talk about, but he was truly fascinated with it. So,
Yeah, no, I'm happy to talk to him about it. I mean, as I said, there were preliminary findings, but the conclusions from them remain the same. If we look at this, look at this image. This is we are time stamped here, right? We don't have the punch out hole spray paint. So this is a timestamp. Okay, so this is an early image. We see this debris or whatnot. If there were in fact meat grinded passengers in this, look at how much water is here. You can see the ripples in this water. This water is flowing, draining. I mean, this is the most contaminated biological specimen collection site I've ever seen in my life. And to think that, there's somehow all of these specimens of small meat grinded people, I don't find it plausible. And to wrap our minds around, well, how could they have maybe integrated data from passengers along with those murdered in the building? All the data was processed off site. So you could have, diligent, patriotic Americans, competent scientists receiving this information at Dover, and who knows where the information is being interjected from. You could have radiographs of dentistry from people that are not even dead. I mean, the existence of 77, sure, but that doesn't mean that it hit the building. 77 could have been flown elsewhere. It could have been landed elsewhere. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't on the plane. I can't speculate, but I can see how data from passengers could have been integrated in and nobody would have been the wiser. And meanwhile, we don't have the other things that you would see, like the seats, for example. Where are the scraps of the seats? The engines, that's 8,000 pounds. Turbofans might have been shredded apart, but that's light mass stuff, right? We still have the volume of the engine. Where is that? That's never been recovered. And that kinetic energy, those would have been behaved like missiles, careening through the building walls. And that C-ring exit hole, it looks like there was maybe some RF shielding, probably to protect whatever was being done within DIA there. But that is left intact, more or less. That is not the way that an explosion behaves, to travel through the building and circumvent all these other columns and get to the end and then blow out this wall. I don't find it plausible. And like Cassandra was saying, I mean, certainly things could have been stored on site earlier. For example, there's that testimony that Thierry Masson gave about the light poles being seen in the building prior to the event. Maybe there were plane parts too, we don't know. Or maybe, as I said at the outset, maybe a smaller aircraft of some sort was flown in and it deposited bits and pieces of something there. That's possible. And the last thing I just want to say while I have the floor is, God bless America. I appreciate what you're trying to do. We can say, well, bombs in the towers were done by foreigners and whatnot. But let's look at the big picture here, right? If we are so compromised that we're being attacked in this manner, if our Pentagon's main data communication line was running under Wedge 1 and we gave access to God knows who to get in there and tap this thing, I mean, are we really doing ourselves any favors, by continuing to run cover for this? I look at what happened in the last few years. I mean, how many millions dead? It just blows my mind that people are still willing to draw these lines. I'm done.
thank you, Xander, very much. I was going to go to Craig and then Adam Fitzgerald, then Ed. If you could unmute yourself, Craig.
Okay. Yeah, I have to make I mean, I agree with what Xander just said. It's puzzling that we would be having this discussion, because I think I know this, will not be appreciated. Is truly a waste of time, because, and the reason I say that, not that I don't think it's a noble effort, but the reason I say that is because you've got people, you've got people like, myself and Xander and others, a couple others that are going to talk about the things that just don't add up, that just aren't possible. And then you're going to have the other crew that is just going to be there to throw whatever they've got at it.
Yeah, you broke. All we got the last was you got the other people throwing stuff at it.
And it doesn't have to make any sense. What they're saying doesn't have to make any sense, because a lot of it doesn't. I mean, okay, am I I
Now
back?
you're back. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've got my camera off, so that should have helped. Anyway, yeah, I mean, the whole description of, you wouldn't expect to find anything if a plane flying that fast flew into a building. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's not all objects that would get hit by a plane are gonna create the same conditions. I mean, flying into a mountain is not the same as flying into a building that as Wayne Costi has pointed out, that those outer walls were not terribly strong. So the idea that the plane's just going to kind of disappear and all the people, I mean, somehow we managed to get DNA from all the people, but so I don't know if that doesn't quite fit with what I heard. But I mean, like, I just don't know what the point of this is, because they're just going to, throw crap at us, at every point. And, I don't really want to have a discussion with them, because I know I know where they're coming from, and they're never going to change. Their
I did
objective,
change.
it seems,
We did
is to-
change.
Hang on.
I did change.
Hang on. Let him finish this stuff. Hang on. Go ahead, Craig.
I don't know what that means. I did change. I don't know what that means. I don't think you're going to change from this stance, and I don't really want to waste my time arguing with people. I mean, I do it enough on Facebook, but I don't really want to waste my time arguing with people that are just going to look for any little thing to claim that primarily the official story is true about the Pentagon. I mean, I think it's bullshit, and excuse my language. And I just don't see the point of this. I mean, we could be having an interesting discussion with 9/11 truthers who have different thoughts on the Pentagon. But what we have here is a point is made, and then it's like slammed down. It doesn't have to make any sense what the response is, but it's just, it's like they've got an answer for everything. But none of them, mean anything, I don't think. I mean, the idea that the wings of a 757 would, would be obliterated, or what would happen? None of them, and nothing would be left outside the building. I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, the windows in the path of the plane's tail weren't even broken. Now, how does that happen? I mean, there's a plane so often, survives crashes. So what, so why didn't it hit the building? Why weren't those windows broken? Why was
You're breaking up again.
Even the internet didn't agree with them.
Yeah. You went max headroom on us. If anybody can appreciate that reference. All right, I'm gonna have to give them a chance to respond now. And please try to keep personal shots down. Adam, you're up, and then Ed.
Yeah, look, we could sit in echo chambers. I could sit in a room with Nelson and Ed, talk about 9/11. Gene, you could do the same thing. Everybody else in this room could do the same thing. By doing this with competing narratives and competing theories and evidence, we're actually going to get more in the way from each other than we would in a room that already agrees with one another. Secondly, if you're looking at 9/11 like a hobbyist and you don't want to do anything anymore, then that's fine. I'm not looking at it like a hobbyist. I spent 12 years to research Middle East history, culture, the CIA, foreign policy, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the Gulf, just so that I could spread nonsense on the internet. Sorry, I don't work that way. I try hard to build on my reputation as being unbiased in any regard. Now, here's a misconception I think some people in this room have, is that they hate the official narrative. I always ask this question to people: what is the official narrative? Well, judging from my responses with these people over the last couple of years, the official narrative seems to be this: 19 Islamic men, fundamentalists, hijacked 4 planes, and they crashed into the World Trade Center, Pentagon, Shanksville, and that's it. That's what the official narrative is to them. there's another part of that official narrative is that the World Trade Centers 1, 2, and 7 were imploded or destroyed by some bomb-making device or improvised device. I'm going to leave the World Trade Center out of this. I'm not qualified to speak on that. So regarding plane hijackings, that represents a microcosm of the 9/11 Commission report. That represents a microcosm of the FBI's Pentagon report. Okay, that represents a microcosm of the Joint House Inquiry report. If you read the whole things, I am the only person in the world to upload the 9/11 Commission and Joint House Inquiry so you can see what they're presenting. Some of it is true, some of it is false. But guess what? Most everything relating to 9/11, pre-9/11 is missing. That was the complaint of the commission staffers. That was the complaint of the families, the victim families. And that's the complaint still to this day from those people. Now, you want to talk about specifics about plane hijackings and whatnot? It's unbelievable to this day that only on September 11, 2001, plane hijackings couldn't happen. They can happen when Hezbollah was doing it. They can happen when the Palestinian Liberation Front was doing it. They could do when Algeria tried to slam a plane into the Eiffel Tower in 1994. Bojinka plot was a plot that involved 12 airliners where they were going to put Timex watches and blow them all up. And there was a second part of that operation where they were having 10 planes to be hijacked and crash them into the Pentagon, World Trade Center, Sears Tower, and a nuclear facility. All of this, including the Israeli and Saudi foreign intelligence connections who are monitoring who inside the United States? The hijackers, along with the CIA and the NSA who are monitoring who? The hijackers pre-9/11 in Germany, in Spain, and Malaysia. All of these intelligence agencies, connections to foreign policy of Israel, the United States, and the Gulf. Guess what? Because you don't believe in hijackers because they represent the official narrative, all of these operations don't exist. All of these people, we could show malfeasance, even foreknowledge, heck, even complicity in assisting these people involved with the operation. All of it doesn't exist because you can't get over the fact that there was hijackers or hijacked planes. That's my argument.
Thank you, Adam. There's some weird, and I don't even know how to define it. It's about the hijackers, whether the hijackers were on the planes that hit the building or whether they were just used as non-playable characters. I don't know what word I want to try to, or phrase I'm trying to say there. Just I don't think Craig's saying that there's no hijackers. I think in his view of however, the whether or no 57 hit the Pentagon, I guess he's along the line. I guess you're in alignment with the Barbara Honegger on that part, or wherever they are, I don't know. There's just I don't know how to differentiate between those two views, but I don't know if anybody could articulate that much better than I just tried to do pathetically. Thank you, Adam. Going to Ed. And I want to just let everybody know, I was only planning on going 2 hours. That's another half an hour here. I don't want to bore you all to tears. I really, really appreciate you guys all being here. This is amazing. Even though it's going to be difficult. And I'd love to pick it up next month, maybe like once a month thing on a Saturday. So thank you. We're going to go another half hour. Ed, you're up.
And to respond to Craig's comment, and to kind of parlay off of what Adam said, you got to be careful about, just because you're looking at a whole bunch of anomalies and inconsistencies that you say with respect to the Pentagon and 9/11, whatever those inconsistencies might be. But you have to be careful and realize that you're actually comparing those inconsistencies with already incomplete data from the official narrative. So it's gonna be even more confusing. And so when you try to find answers to those inconsistencies, you're not going to find the answers to those questions when you have missing data. So the best thing to do is go off what you know and what the evidence shows, and then table those other pieces of data until you can come to some sort of conclusion. And I brought this up a long time ago. I was telling Nelson about this. I like to think I coined this logical fallacy, and I hope it gets adopted someday. But I call it the placeholder fallacy. And it's when a person or group of people do research on a particular subject, and they come to a point in their research where they can't collect any more data in order to come to a conclusion. They end up using they use speculative data or make up things in order to fill in those empty spaces so they can come to a temporary conclusion. But what happens is that they never go back to remedy that speculative data in order to come to a factual conclusion. And as a result, time goes by and that speculative data results to conclusion that becomes dogma. And that's where I think I think where we're at in a lot of respect with respect to a lot of these other theories that have no real answers, because there's no other data out there to really bring your hypothesis to a conclusion. So you operate off what you know. You do the work necessary to understand the geopolitical narrative, because it's very important. And then hopefully you can come to a better conclusion and actually have some better clarity, I guess you could say. And that's, I think, where myself and Adam and Nelson have come to. And it's not to disparage anybody else's viewpoint or where they're at, but sometimes I feel like the 9/11 Truth Movement, if you were to put it on a sort of maturity scale, I feel like we're in the terrible twos and haven't even got past the preschool yet. But sometimes I feel like some of us are in like more of a, or at least in grade school, and waiting on everybody else to catch up. And that's but nobody else wants to do the work because it's difficult. It's hard to read freaking reports and intelligence reports and try to piece all that stuff together. But that's where Nelson and Adam and other people like that can come into can be of great help, because we did a lot of that work already, and it behoove everyone to kind of take advantage of that.
And I don't think anybody denies the fact. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody's denying the importance of the geopolitical aspects. I mean, hats off to you guys for doing that work. I mean, I cannot imagine even beginning to tackle that thing. So it's absolutely critical. Nobody in the right mind, I think, I speak for everyone, would say that this is not important. This is critically important.
And we appreciate that. The only question I would have, though, is how many have gone to Adam's website to read the information?
I'll say Adam puts out so much information. Following his Twitter account, I don't read that much. I can't read that much. He's Rain Man on that stuff. I love you. I say that in the most kind way possible. There's just so much information comes out. And I gotta say it with Nelson too. I can't even watch all that. I can't sit through a 6-hour video. I'll keep taking pieces of it, but God bless you guys that do that. The two missing pieces that we just talked about so far on this call were that we don't have a FOIA for the people parts and the plane parts. And I'll file those. It's $25 a piece. I'll file those questions. I'll talk to Mick on how I could word it best, or Dave here. I don't think we have.
I have a question, and I could be completely mistaken on this. I had read at one point that apparently shortly after the cleanup started, it was stated officially that there were enough plane parts collected that they were rebuilding the plane in a facility to the way they do after plane. Is that not true? Did that not happen? If it did, is that a complete, is that all wrong?
I'm going to speak on that if I may. I'm going to say that is absolute nonsense. There's been a lot of talk about, every time a plane crashes, they rebuild the thing in a hangar. It's but the reason they do that is because that's in cases where they don't know what caused the crash. So they have to actually reconstruct the airplane to the greatest degree possible, and then you utilize all the FDR data systems and all that stuff, and they'll look at like where the gauges were at the time of crash and things like that. But that's when you piece together the aircraft. But the NTSB is usually involved in that. Because if you don't know what the cause of the crash is, obviously they haven't designated a terrorist attack. If they hadn't designated a terrorist attack, then the FBI wouldn't have jurisdiction. So the NTSB usually is involved in that sort of and that's when you actually piece it together.
Right, and I'm not saying why didn't they reconstruct it? I'm just saying I had read that they did say that they were reconstructing it, and I was just wondering if that was true, and if they were reconstructing it.
I think it'd be fiscally irresponsible to reconstruct that, because we know what happened with respect to why it crashed. So I don't know what would be the purpose of reconstructing it.
Okay, fair enough.
The amount of money involved in that would be astronomical.
But here's what I brought up on the screen was TWA 800, where they reconstructed it. That was the one that had what I think is the missile that blew up right outside the cabin. But
well, that's important you brought that up, Gene. How many people saw it get shot down? 130 people.
Right.
Okay, they're conflicting against the official story. So are all those people liars? Are they crisis actors?
Yeah. Point made. Thank you. Ray, you're up. You're muted, buddy.
Mute. I'm here. Okay. We can go to the left, to the right, whatever. But the main thing is the official story is the Pentagon building performance report regarding what happened there on that day, and there are a few other miscellaneous reports that dive into the Pentagon attack in that sense. But the building performance report is actually giving an idea of how they think the building collapsed and why it collapsed, etc. And but in that report, there's no mention of building debris being outside. There's no mention of the fragmentation of the plane. There's no mention of the explosion that took place. The blast pressure of that explosion is not calculated. There's a lot of missing points in that, and then I think that Ed made that same remark. If you do not have, if you're limited in your knowledge because the knowledge is not given to you, it was not investigated, that leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And I think that Adam has a really strong fantasy when it comes to interpreting what happened there. That's just like the other people but it's really getting into the looking at the pictures, and I put 3 up again. I just want to get people to just look at what is happening there. These are pictures. One is from the 12th of September, and that's the first one. It's, I think,
getting there.
It's BS dark. Yeah, this is on the day itself. This is not the 12th, but you can see them far from the building. They're holding paper bags and they're collecting things. And if we want to know what happened there, this is from the 12th. This is even further from the Pentagon. There where you have the roundabout coming from the highway, and you can go underneath the bypass, what I don't know, your bridge kind of thing, towards the parking of the Pentagon. But if you look at how far they are from the building collecting evidence, it's these things are not known in any report. It's not mentioned in the building report. It's not mentioned anywhere. So we have a lot of data which is not known. But what is known is that they are spotted there. And then the last picture, that's really an amazing picture, is a guy who's holding a piece of aircraft debris, and he was photographed. No, it's,
I'm looking.
Yeah, that one. And that's not in front of the Pentagon directly, but it's way north. on the
What
what
the
was
hell
it
is he
called?
doing
The
holding it?
Washington Boulevard, it's called. And if you want to know where he's standing, there is a green shield with a parking sign behind the. It's just behind, but I geolocated that position where he is standing, and that's some 600 meters from the Pentagon. He's standing in front of a piece of airplane debris, and he's holding a piece of airplane debris. And these are not light pieces like the aluminum sheet of the aluminum metal which was used for the fuselage. These are substantial cast aluminum pieces of debris. And they were ejected to the north, 600 meters from the point, near the helipad. And that is amazing that you have an energy that is not, this is not mentioned in the Pentagon building report, these kind of things. You have to really look at the Pentagon building report as a way that they wanted to study the building and think about what caused the collapse. It's not a total description of what happened there. But there are no other reports about the fragmentation of the plane. They don't exist. So that's why we get this idea that there was no plane, but that's a kind of absurd idea that follows, you know, there was little debris. No, the debris was little, and it was far spread, and it was spread to the north, it was spread to the south, it was spread to the east, and it was spread to way in the direction of the cemetery. And I think if because I've looked at the pictures where the FBI was collecting debris, and that's why I came up with that the debris was widespread.
But then again, just like this picture here, these
Yes.
parts should be cataloged and these parts should be stored somewhere.
Absolutely, I agree, Gene.
So
That there's
I'll
something
put that
missing in the data we have about the Pentagon, but that's not to say that there was no plane. That's something else. It's what fragmented the plane.
All right.
That's the real question.
I'm down
And
to
if
18.
we have and we have one voice of one of the perpetrators saying we have a bomb on board, and if you combine those two, a plane and explosives, then you can really get a kind of sense about fragmentation, because only a plane does not cut the mustard.
So
And
Ray's
only
stance is that
explosives
there
and
was a-
only explosives do not cut the mustard because they're spray parts.
So am I
and-
correct
and-
that I understand your position to be that there was explosives on the plane?
Explosives were used in the attack on the Pentagon, and I think and I assume that they were on the plane. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Gonna go to Adam, then Ed.
Hey, first of all, Gene, thanks for bringing this on, Sandra, Gene, for making this possible. I don't mind sitting here and talking with Craig McKee. I know we've had our years of discourse and I've been rude. And Xander, I don't know who he is, but I have no problem talking with these people. Never. I don't need to call them names or anything like that. Now, in the past, I've been very rude to Craig McKee and vice versa. But I could sit here and talk with them face to face without using ad hominems. I don't need to. And we can have discourse like this as long as it's productive and it's peaceful and it's relatively gentlemanly. But at the same time, it's going to be a trying effort, and I'm willing to go with it. I don't care about it. I'd rather sit in a room and talk with them than sit and talk with people that are already of like-mindedness. That's how you build a movement, and that's what I'm trying to do. But as for what's it called, Ray, you brought up that the Pentagon building performance report doesn't mention anything about plane debris outside the Pentagon. Yes, it does on page 12, actually. And you could see that with I want to say it's a chapter 3 review of crash information. So, you know, I don't know where you're getting that from. Anyway,
What is, no. What does it say? What does it say?
chapter 12, go to it, read it.
No,
It's
no,
right
what
there.
does it say? What does
Chapter
it say?
12 or page 12?
Chapter 3, page 12.
What does it say?
Read it.
No, no.
It's a lot. It's a whole
I
page.
read it. I read it, but
No,
what are you trying
no,
to say? What
okay,
are you trying to
I'm not,
say?
I'm not wasting my time because it says that the plane debris was located outside the Pentagon.
Why was it there?
What? Well, let's see. The plane, which is
No.
carrying
I'm
78,000
not. I'm going to read it. I'm
let
going.
me
I'm going to
speak.
read it
Or
myself.
you're going to talk over me.
Whoa.
Yeah, let Adam finish his statement.
First
and
of
then
all, the
we can bring
plane
back-
itself is the bomb. There's 78,000 pounds of fuel. You don't need a bomb when the plane itself is a bomb. Why do you think they chose these flights from East Coast to West Coast? So it would be fully loaded. The explosion that you saw wasn't from the bomb. It was from the jet fuel hitting at a high altitude against a hard building. And it says right there on page 12, not to mention that when it comes to this issue of the Pentagon, this is the dividing point regarding the truth community. It's not the Shanksville incident. It's not World Trade Center 1, 2, or 7. It's the Pentagon. And why is that? It's basically because hardly anyone has ever seen an intentional plane crash where you barely see little plane debris. And look, I'm not going by just the official narrative itself, okay? The official narrative is much bigger and expansive than you make it out to be. And yes, I do believe in certain conspiracies. For example, with Flight 93, for example. Now, this is not proven, but where there's smoke, there's fire. And it's quite reasonable. And let me share it with you. On Flight 93, you had 6 phone calls made on that plane, 4 from passengers, 2 from flight attendants. I would say that means something. Now, the official narrative from the FBI and the 9/11 Commission report is the following. 4 people hijacked that plane. Ziad Jarrah is supposedly the pilot. Then you had Saeed El-Ghamdi, Ahmed El-Nami, and Ahmed El-Hasnawi acting as muscle. Well, what does the 6 phone calls say? The 6 phone calls that some people say are manufactured or don't exist. Well, they go against the narrative. They say there's 3 hijackers in that plane. And 3 of those phone calls basically say all 3 men with dark-skinned males. Now, you pull up a Google picture of Ziad Jarrah, see if he fits that description. Not only that, Flight 93 is the only plane where we have the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder that actually exists. Well, guess what? If you see the transcript, which is publicly available, the voice recording is not, but the families heard it. And guess what happened? They were saying the person sitting next to the pilot was saying, Saeed, up, down the plane, meaning throwing the people off the ground. Well, if there's a person named Saeed on the plane, flying the plane, where the hell is Ziad Jarrah? Well, guess what? If you did your due diligence to find out the background of Ziad Jarrah, most no-planers love to blame Israel for 9/11, but they throw away the biggest anomaly of Israel maybe having an Israeli mole within the plot. Here's what I'm mentioning. Ziad Jarrah's uncle is Asim al-Jarrah. Nelson does a great expose on the background of the Abu Nidal organization. Asim al-Jarrah is basically an agent for the ANO, as well as Israeli and German intelligence. His uncle, he has a cousin, Ali al-Jarrah, who is actually an Israeli Mossad mole for 25 years, acting as an accordance by embedding himself in Hezbollah in Lebanon. Well, he's a teacher. He was arrested in 2011. He had a brother, Joseph al-Jarrah, who helped his brother, helped the Israeli Mossad for 10 years. Well, who's to say that the man who doesn't fit the description, the man who never lived with any of the hijackers, the man who was grown up in a secular household, the man who had Israeli intelligence all in their background, all of this doesn't exist because you don't believe in hijackers. And guess what? You're left right where you are now, saying you're asking questions.
But then
Well,
again,
guess
I don't
what?
think anybody here is saying no hijackers.
No. There are people that do say that. I'm
Okay,
just
but
saying
we're
in
not.
general. I'm just
Okay.
saying in general, okay? But if you don't believe in hijacked planes, you don't believe these hijackers were found at the site.
Yeah,
And
we
that's
could,
the evidence. That's the evidence, Gene.
thank
okay.
you.
That's
I
the
just-
evidence. All right, that's one anomaly I'm saying that you're throwing away.
I got a 11 minutes left. I do want to go around the table and talk to everybody, like 30 seconds, give everybody what their impression was and thoughts on. Real quick, I want to say, because Craig wasn't in when we found out, it seemed like Richard Gage may have been would have been on this call. Barbara Honegger would have, and David Chandler would have, but they all had other things to do. I guess already had things planned. So if we do this next month, in 1 month on a Saturday, they may be here. So I want to go to Ray, and I thought you had your hand up, Ed.
I did. I was just, I pretty much, Adam, pretty much, I don't want to take a lot of time for just, but I do want to have something I want to say, just more relevant to like the email I sent you earlier.
Okay.
Me too, Gene. Like you can't see me put my hand up, but me too.
Oh, okay. So we'll go to Ray, we'll go to Craig, and then I'll do around the horn, and we'll call it an evening. Ray, you're up.
Okay, I thought I would just read page 12 of the Pentagon Building Performance Report, because there was stated that the fragmentation of the plane was mentioned there. And there's something about a plane mentioned, but there's nothing about the fragmentation of the plane mentioned at all. How many pieces of debris were found in front of the Pentagon, why it disintegrated into such small pieces, it's not mentioned there. So if we read a report and we think that something is stated there, I think that's really, if we want to fight the report and we want to get to the report, we have to read the report and not just claim something that it's in there or it's not in there.
I think it might have just been a mistake. Adam referenced this page I have up on the screen, but I too scanned through it and didn't see anything about that. You might just have a.
I think that's really it doesn't.
I think it was just an accident. I think he's making a reference.
Okay. But it's. I think if we want to get to something that we have to really get out of our own fixed how we see things and if we cannot explain in a real sense, and actually we do not have to explain it, but the government never explained the fragmentation happening there of the aircraft.
Page
and if
13,
people say and that's what I want to say, that is the missing link. We're missing something, and that's why we're arguing, because we were never given the information by the government to begin with.
Here it is.
And
You meant page 13.
My closing argument. I'll leave it there.
Go ahead. Oh, yeah. So he referenced page 12, but on page 13, it says about this Rich Fitzharris, 52. He recalls the building near the area of impact was in flames, and he remembers seeing small pieces of debris, the largest of which may have been a part of an engine shroud. He was at the heliport.
That's it. Yeah, but not why it's fragmented. It's not mentioned.
Okay. All right, Adam.
Okay, so that's
You're
stuff
doing
I
like a
left out.
great Grover impression.
Yeah.
He's over there doing the Muppets, like Grover or some shit. Anyway.
Speaking of explosions, I think Adam's head is exploding.
Yeah. We're going to go to Craig. And you have to unmute again, brother. There it is.
Sorry. Yeah, got it.
What's that, Sandra?
Just unshare your screen, maybe.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I wanted one point I wanted to make, and I've made this point on Facebook quite a few times. I don't know who when Adam referred to no planers, I'm not sure who he was referring to, but I am not a no planer. And most of the people who don't think a 757 at the Pentagon are not no planers, and that term is just kind of to, lump us in with people that think there were no planes in New York. So that's an unfair term, and it's not even accurate, because clearly I believe that there was a plane involved in what happened at the Pentagon. I just don't think it hit the building.
I would agree with that. I just want to reiterate that too for you. Even though Craig believes that something flew over the Pentagon, he's not saying there was absolutely no plane. So we really, because there are no planers, meaning for New York, when we talk about CGI and holograms, he's not on that level. So even though you guys disagree with the flyover theory, that is not no plane. We really need, because this confusion and unpacking terms is really, that's That's a big problem in the 9/11 truth movement too. Go ahead, Craig. I didn't mean to stop you there.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you. I wanted to make a couple of comments about things that were said at the conference. Some points that were made by the Chandler Costi team that there wasn't really a sufficient opportunity to rebut there. And I just want to make sure that anybody that's watching that video understands. And I'm specifically talking about things that Chandler was saying about Lloyd England. You know, he and Costi keep repeating this absolutely false idea, and we know it's false. It's right there on the video that CIT did when they interviewed England. England is very specific about. Now, he doesn't number the polls like we've done, so he doesn't say, oh, it's poll number 1, but he's clearly talking about the long base of the pole that is lying right next to his cab. He talks about it in multiple interviews. He talks about it being 30 to 40 feet long repeatedly. And in the video, the CIT video, and I've pointed this out in articles I've written, and in that, I don't know if I got to it in that presentation or not, but he points right to the pole in the photograph. So this idea that is being, is being pushed is a very dishonest one, that Lloyd England never said it was that pole. You know, this is simply false. And that falsehood has been added to I was absolutely stunned to hear David Chandler say that when Lloyd England says, no, I wasn't on the bridge. I was, if you listen to the whole interview, clearly he's talking about being way to the north, like hundreds of feet to the north. In fact, at one point, he even mentions being north of the heliport. And yet, his cab is there in photographs on the bridge, which is where Columbia Pike goes under Route 27. So now Chandler has come up with this new wrinkle, which is when he says, no, I wasn't on the bridge, I was, to the north, he means like where the second pole is, which I don't know how far that is, but it can't be more than like 30 or 40 feet away. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous that he's making this assertion. He's got to know it's ridiculous. He's got to know that England is not saying that. And the last point I'll make on that he's also asserting that somehow Craig Ranke of CIT manipulated him. Ranke's trying to establish that why he's claiming that he wasn't on the bridge when the photographs all put him there. And he's saying, like, there you are, you're right there. And at one point he says, there's your pole, right? And he's not trying to establish which pole hit the cab. He's pointing to the pole to say, there's the pole, there's your cab. So that kind of puts you on the bridge. And Chandler has been using this to say, well, that he's putting words in England's mouth about the pole, saying like, England doesn't want to agree that that's the pole. But I mean, this is an unbelievable twisting of what happened. And the motivation of which I have my own thinking on. But these things have to be, they can't just keep saying that. It's provably false. So anyway, I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Craig. Ed, and then we're going to go around the horn. No, we're at 7 o'clock, but Ed, go ahead if you can keep it short, please.
All right. So the phrase "no planer," what that means is it's referring to those who cannot account for all 4 of the aircraft and where they are at. If you have no Flight 77 hitting the Pentagon, you have to be able to account for where is that plane. If you believe that 175 didn't hit the World Trade Center, you have to account for where that plane is at. If you don't believe Flight 11 or Flight 93 crashed, then you have to account for where that plane is at. So if you don't believe Flight 93 hit the crash in Shanksville, you don't believe Flight 77 hit the Pentagon, then you are by definition a no planer because you can't account for those aircraft.
So on that,
that's our definition.
That's absurd.
That's our definition.
Okay,
well,
hang on.
you can call it absurd all you want, but
hang on.
You have to be able to account for the aircraft.
Hang on.
And if you can't account for it, there's no plane.
All right, hang on.
Hence a no planer.
So my point being that we're defining it differently. That's all I'm saying.
You
Craig's
can do
defining it
that.
differently. You're defining it. You were defining it differently than how I defined it. But that's fine. Just so long we understand how each
Right.
other defines it. Craig doesn't define it that way. I don't define
And
it
that's
that
fine.
way. So we have
That's
actually
fine.
like 3 different definitions here of what no
That's fine.
planar means.
So when
But-
we refer to that as a no planar, that's what we mean.
That's what you mean. Yes. Okay. Understood.
That's
Thank
what
you.
we mean.
Yes. And when Craig uses
Yeah.
it, that's not what he means. And when I use
Right.
it,
So
that's what-
understand that when we're saying he's a no planar, that's what we're talking about.
understood.
Not
but
his definition,
not his
but our
definition.
definition.
And can I add something to that? Because if I look at the way trials go and someone's on trial and what they have to establish is reasonable doubt to, to convince the jury that the person on trial is not the one who committed the crime, that doesn't mean that they have to provide all the answers of everything of what actually happened. You still do have to find the real criminal. But if you can establish reasonable doubt about this person who's on trial, and then you have to find him not guilty. And I think this is kind of a little bit along those lines. It's not because some of us don't have all the answers and can't account for where the plane went and what happened to it, that it means that what's being presented is the only truth that stands.
Well,
you
the
can't-
but the idea that the idea that the planes did hit those specific targets is what is unreasonable. So it's in our view. So it's not. It wouldn't be considered a reasonable. It would actually be considered probably frivolous in a court of law to sit there and say that Flight 77 didn't hit the Pentagon or Flight 93 didn't crash at Shanesville. A judge would actually throw that out as frivolous, and so there would be no reasonableness associated with that claim.
Jesus.
Well, I want to thank you all for
If that
this. I
makes
just want to
sense.
go around real
Yeah.
quick. If you have anything to say, cool. If not, cool. Xander, anything for the group? Thank you for being here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's okay to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Gene. I'll say there are things that are incongruent or inconsistent that have to be reconciled. They do provide reasonable doubt. The length of the object in the security cam footage is one. We were talking about the UA-175 footage that recently came out. The length of that aircraft, if I remember correctly, was too long for a 767-200 series. Also, when you note the impact point at the building, the flash that you see at every other previous incarnation of footage is missing. And it appears as though if there was a pod-like structure on that aircraft, that's been photoshopped out. So couple that with the audio correlating with it, it's a fishy video. I wish those that may want to put a video out at some future point in time, the best of luck regarding the Pentagon. It would be amazing to just be able to swallow this mythology. But unfortunately, those inconsistencies and incongruencies are irreconcilable. And I think that we should continue to work toward finding out the correct thing, scrubbing the wound, and patching this up going forward. I just don't think we're doing ourselves any favors by running cover for what happened in DC.
And
Thanks.
nobody did. You all came here. Freaking hats off to all of you. You didn't run for cover. You all came out. That's freaking awesome. Adam, keep it short, but I'm going to try to get 30 seconds to everybody here real quick. Adam Fitzgerald.
Yeah, call the fire department. Look,
Another plane hit the tower.
look, I'll tell you what, we could go to court. You guys can't. We can move forward. You guys can't. End of story.
All right, thank you. Nelson, you got 30 seconds. Anything for the group?
Not much. I pretty much supported what, Adam and Ed pretty much spoke for myself on these things. I mean, I could get into more little things. I just will say for Ray, if you're going to put explosives on Flight 77, you need the data, you need the information, you need the security videos from Dulles Airport, because there just might be some things that have gone on there the day before.
Good point. Thank you. Nelson, thank you for being here. Ed, anything for the group? Nope, there you are. Nope, you're still muted.
No, just want to reiterate, you can't draw conclusions based on incomplete data. That's all.
Thank you. Love the background too, by the way. Royal Rumble. Susan, anything for the group?
Gotta have a
Susan?
sense of humor about this whole thing, you know?
Yeah, so I'm agnostic about the Pentagon, but I do strongly hold that nothing should have hit the Pentagon, and that we're still debating this 20 years after the event. That is proof enough to me that there was a cover-up, because there's so much inconsistent data, incomplete data. And I thank you for putting this together.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you for being here. Ray, you got anything for the group? Final words? Oh, you're muted. And Tom, you're going to be next.
I would say fight the official report in every way possible, in the sense that every report was written on 9/11 official report. You have to read it. You have to understand what was and what was not investigated.
Yep. Thank you.
That's my thing. It's really that simple. And we're not. I'm not here to fight anybody. It's really the stupidest idea that we know we were lied to somewhere, and that's all I can say.
Thank you, Ray. Tom.
I'll try to be brief. So yeah, I have a conflict, so I can't meet on Sundays, and that has to do with the my big focus is trying to help the jab injured, the people that have had the experimental injections that got hurt. So that's
Could you put
taken
your
up-
mic a little closer to your mouth, like you're having a rough?
Yeah.
There we go.
Sorry.
Better.
Okay. So I'm spending my time on the like the vaccine mandate issue and the that whole controversy. But Chuck Fall, who's involved in the Truth Action Project, we're going to meet on Monday. I hope to meet with him. So I still sort of have my hands in on Truth
Yeah, it's
Action.
really hard to hear you, brother.
Well, it's probably too late. I just probably have to turn the gain up on my mic. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks for
Sorry. Really appreciate you being here too. Craig, you're up. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you for inviting me. Two quick points in my 30 seconds. One is that when you use a term like no planar, it says a lot about whether you are wanting to be clear or whether you're wanting not to be clear. To use a term that people will think means one thing that is not what you're claiming to intend is a very troubling thing. I mean, do you want to be clear or not? And clearly you guys don't want to be clear using that term.
I want to defend that. I want a chance to defend
that. Well, I don't think you should. Are we not going around the table once here? Is that not
what
we're doing?
Yeah, well,
because I made an accusation.
I hear what he's saying. Well,
I made an accusation that you're not being clear, and I can only assume that that's on purpose, because you wouldn't use the term. People are not going to understand what you think it means. You know that.
Greg, I just explained it to you, so I was very clear. So you can't make that claim.
I got your explanation. I got your explanation. That was.
So we cannot say that.
My other point is that the idea that when you have incomplete data, you can't draw conclusions, I think is quite absurd. I mean, we wouldn't have any murder, murder charges if we had to know every single thing before we could proceed. If you know that
you have to have enough to prove
story
your
that we're being
case.
told. Sorry, am I not?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's come on, Ed, man. We got to give him his
right.
He's addressing me, so I gotta. He's addressing me.
Well, you're not supposed to be talking at all.
Yeah, I know. It really. Stop unmuting yourself, brother. Like Rick, we give Craig. You got the floor. Everybody was given everyone got their chance. Please give Craig the respect for his own response. Go ahead, Craig.
I'm saying that if you have evidence that shows that something of significance in the official story is wrong, then you have shown the story to be wrong. And we have many things that are wrong. So the idea, this idea that, oh, we can't really know because it's incomplete, that's just that's wrong. So that's it for me.
Thank you very much.
I
Sean,
want a
you're
chance
up.
to respond to that, just so you know.
Sure.
So,
Well,
I gotta
just wait,
respond to
Ed.
that. I
Sean, you're
got to,
up, and then
please.
Morgan. And I'm sorry, we're not going to do that because everyone was given their 30 seconds. We can continue this on next month. We can carry
That's
it on
fine,
in
but
an
you can't
email.
leave me hanging out there like that. I got to respond to that. But yeah, everybody else can go first. I'll go last. That's no problem.
Sean, you're up.
yeah, okay. Well, the Pentagon is a huge waste of time. The entire discussion only happens because Thierry Meyssan misrepresented a small hole. It's the original placeholder distraction theory. You spend 20 years puzzling over it. Clearly, you can't go anywhere with it. And really, the whole problem is not about who or what a no-planer is in a semantical, another time waste. It's just about the missing link could be right in front of you and you wouldn't know it, because all you do is scrutinize whether or not you can believe in airplanes. And that's the huge problem. It's paralyzing. It's the primary reason that you're unable to move forward. It's because you're allowed to believe anything, you're therefore going to know nothing.
Thank you, Sean. Morgan, got anything for the group?
Hey, yeah, I just like what Sandra said at the beginning of it, about this type of work being like putting together a puzzle. And I really want to fan the flames of, cooperation. Great things have been done on Earth, and most of them had to have great cooperation. That's how it works in science and everywhere else. In our mainstream culture and media, don't give us examples of good cooperation. And so I really like what this group has done, and I think this is the way to get somewhere. I'm always thinking of giant sort of goals, but it would be cool to have things fleshed out, and be able to deliver that to the public so that they can look for themselves. They can know what this person thinks on this, and they can see where people do agree and they don't. Anyway, I think this was great, and I want to see it again. Thanks for doing it, inviting me.
Thank you. Again, next month, if you guys are privy to do this, chances are we'll probably have Honegger, Chandler, and Gage on this call too. So Ed, we're just gonna disagree on the definition of what no planer is. When you say no planer, it does
that's
give.
fine. I don't want to talk. I don't want.
It does give off
hammer
a
that point
signal
out.
of. When I hear no planer, I think you're talking about CGI and holograms.
Well, those are counted, but they're not. That's not the entire.
Well,
I don't
it's guilt by
consider it.
association, and there's a huge.
Well, sorry,
If
that's
you
not
would
how it
ask
is.
9 out of
It's
10
like
if you would ask 9 out of 10 people, if you said no planer, what it meant, they would. I think they would concur with that. Flyover, they would not
then I
consider
would
part
say
of a no.
holograms and all those guys poison the well.
Yeah.
And, the bottom line is it logically concludes to a reasonable explanation of why we call them that.
Yeah.
There's a reasonable explanation for it, but they can't account for the planes.
Okay, so can you find a term for people who just don't think that a plane hit the Pentagon? How about that?
No planer.
Other than no planer.
That's a half
No,
planer.
no.
Why?
The no planer. No.
No,
the
there's no
planer by
flight 77.
definition.
There's no flight 77 by definition. No plane.
Okay, but if your definition includes CGIs and hologrammers at the World Trade Center, then that definition is logically, it's a fallacy.
Yeah.
You got to come up with something else.
Well, no, because drawing that conclusion is the fallacy.
All right.
Look,
thank you all for
I want to
being
get in
here.
here now that Ed has gotten his response in. So I
Right
wouldn't
on,
I
mind-
didn't
Craig,
get
go
my
ahead.
response in. I didn't respond to what I wanted to respond to.
Well,
You guys
I
want to
didn't
do
get
this?
my
no,
response.
you
We
should
end
have
it.
taken that chance.
Can we go out on a good foot here?
Well, I don't.
Let's just do this
I'm not
next
gonna-
month.
Yeah. Can we carry this over to next month?
Well,
That's fine.
Yeah.
Well,
That's fine.
sorry, I'm going to make a quick comment because I was just given the go ahead.
I dig it.
So,
Go ahead.
I think you should just do it
quick.
Quick, go ahead,
No.
Craig.
Craig,
Go.
you're good. Go ahead.
Okay, the last thing I'm going to say, I mean, this discussion about no planer is ridiculous. and it is very revealing. But I would say we don't need a term, because terms, that causes a lot of problems. We don't.
Why
need
do you have a problem with it?
Because
then don't worry about it.
No, well, I think I made my point as to why I think it's wrong. You don't agree. That's
Yeah.
I would expect.
It's good, Craig. I think we're all getting the gist of where the problem is with having that term.
Yep. Love
I
you
hope
all.
so.
Thank you for coming here. Have a great rest of your Saturday and a happy
Have a great one, everybody. Happy
Resurrection Day.
Easter. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter, guys.
I